it's not necessarily like respawn and orgs and pro players and stuff, but it's more about how to elevate the game to the next level. Tell me what you guys think about this. I think the most flawed part about competitive Apex is the drop spot system. I think it's entirely stupid. I think the fact that you have the best teams playing at the best POIs, like, does TSM deserve the best POI? Like, yes, they're one of the best fighting teams. They fought for it. They deserve to land at the best POIs. However, I think there's a limit to like contesting for good POIs. Like, let's take World's Edge, for instance. There's 5 or 6 good POIs. The rest are all shit. It's not feasible for every single, like, if you have 20 TSMs in the lobby, 20 TSM caliber teams, they all have to land somewhere. You can't fit 20 TSMs into Siphon. You just fucking can't. And I think it's incredibly hard to be a good team from like Geyser versus like Siphon. I think the next way that Apex could be elevated and really display like who's the best of the best is to have random drops every single game. So, you know, like, let's take like Olympus. There's 20 plus POIs. You spawn at different POIs, completely random at every single point in the game. So now all of a sudden, you don't have to practice and like learn macro from one POI where you're doing the same shit for every single zone. You see a zone, you rotate the same way, blah, blah, blah. You fight this, you fight that. It's a new POI every game. You're going to have new rotations. You're going to have to basically do 20 times the amount of learning because you're at 20 different POIs. And it's completely random. So all of a sudden you'll have like, you know, maybe a good zone team like Arcan and crew. Like, if they landed Siphon, how good would they be when they have like the strongest zone POI, you know, on that map? How good would they be? We'll never ever really know. And my like opinion of who's the best BR player in the game, who's the best BR team, it's the team that can adapt and flex to all situations, to like all maps, to any metas. And I think it would be really interesting and really cool to see the next level taken of like random drop spots every game. Throw people in and see what they can do and see who can be the most consistent and who's carried by their POIs and who's not. You know what I mean?
As a viewer, that sounds amazing. Like, for me, just obviously I'm not a pro, I'm not even close. As a viewer, I'd be like, hell yeah. I think that would honestly make me follow along with the team, like one specific team, a lot harder. I think that's kind of what's tough about esports in general. It's like, as a sports fan, you're born, you have your team, that's that. Esports is a little different, and it's also pretty young. And I think it's hard to stick with one team for a while because so many roster changes. It's almost like you follow a player rather than a team. So it's you follow this one player and maybe you catch him while he's, you know, in the early stages of his career. Like, I remember when we first had Phony on the show back in the early days, like, he hadn't really made a name for himself yet. And I've followed him since then. It was fun. I would love to follow my man dropping at all these different areas, IGLing his way through, and just like seeing each spot. And I don't think the pros would like it very much.
I think anything that's done to push people out of the comfort zone is not good for pros. They don't like it. They don't like the change. But I think we should really kind of shift towards ALGS making all the decisions, because at the end of the day, ALGS is a marketing tool for the main game. They want to display all the maps. They want to display all the legends, whatever. And they really should, because if ALGS is getting more viewership, that's only good for us. It goes all the way from top down, right? If ALGS is getting more viewers, they're getting more sponsors. If they're getting more sponsors, ALGS has higher prize pools. If ALGS has higher prize pools, more orgs are interested. You know, imagine fucking $20 million like ALGS land. Like, what org isn't kind of want to be there?
Yeah.
You know, if there's an influx of orgs, then all of a sudden you can like negotiate for higher salaries with multiple offers from a billion orgs wanting to show up at LAN, you know? So I think pros should really understand that change is good, and doing a lot of different things like out of the norm is good, because it's going to help us in the long run. But I feel like people don't think that far and think of it that way. They only think of like what's in their local environment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And at this point, we might as well change, because the same two teams have won every tournament. So maybe you should be more. So maybe you should be more open to change a little bit.
Really
have you ever seen? Have you ever seen Dark Zero play Edge?
No,
I don't think so.
They fucking suck at Edge. They're like the best zone team in the world. That's all they've ever known is zone. But when they've like been forced to play Edge on scrims or like flex drop to like different POIs on Edge, they struggle. Like, they're not the DZ that we know that playing center zone and getting to power positions and bullying other teams to zone. They're a much different team when they're forced on Edge. And I think if we did like a randomized drop system, it would really show that it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe DZ isn't the best team in the world. They're the best team in the world at playing a center zone POI and rotating fast. but are they really the best if they aren't challenging themselves and demonstrating that they can succeed in all scenarios and all aspects of the game?
Yeah, it would, once again, from a viewing aspect, it would also make the first like 3 minutes of every match not the most boring shit in the world, because it's literally everybody's landing at their exact same spot. You're hearing the casters just like, you just see the shot of all the teams falling. You're like, all right, I got to wait 5 minutes before something happens. And then things start to take place unless there's a contest. But it would also make it to where they would be able to bounce around on the broadcast, be like, oh, okay, TSM is here, DZ is over here. Let's see, they're pretty close. They might rotate into one another. Like, that would make it more interesting.
There'd be so much more 100%. To talk about.
Yeah, way more.
I mean, like, when you first said it, I was like, that sounds pretty stupid. And the more we talked about it, I'm like, I'm sold. I was like, let's run that shit up. Let's make it happen.
Right. Also, you know, like when I started streaming again, like recently, I kind of stopped for a bit, but I was like, I turned my stream on, and people are like, "Oh, we playing like all 6 games of World's Edge?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, you know, they're not doing Olympus right now," and everyone's like, "All right, well, I'm just gonna leave because this is fucking boring. Like, I want to watch Olympus," and then my viewer count just like, you know, cuts in half. I'm like, damn. I wish we'd be playing Olympus because people want to see something fucking different. Like, no one wants to tune in and watch 6 games of World's Edge. World's Edge is like, we all know how it plays out. It's the same shit every single time. It's so predictable. We know who's gonna win, who's gonna do well, who's not gonna do well. You know, it's like people want to see new shit. If they see the same shit, they get bored. It's just like anything in life. It's like, it's the main game, right? If people complain about like skins being recolored in the same, it's no different for comp.
I was thinking too, going back to your idea, who the fuck is missing a scrim when you need the most practice you can get, knowing that there's a chance that you're going to land at some random POI? Like, if it's random every single time, you're playing every scrim, because the more practice you get, the better chance you have to have success. Like, nobody's missing scrims at that point. People miss scrims now because, like you said, it's the same thing every single time. You know which team is going where. You already have your spot determined. The more we talk about it, I think it has to get implemented.
It has to, bro.
Like, it just makes sense. Like, nobody would be missing scrims. Scrims would also be like a much more heavily talked about topic. People hate talking about scrims right now because people, like, teams do random shit because they get bored, I think, half the time, but also they're just trying different shit out. Nobody would miss a scrim. They would be like must-watch TV every single time, trying to figure out which teams are doing well from where and where they suck at and all that stuff. Plus, you could also implement a whole new stat system. I think stats are limited to kills, knocks, and deaths and damage when you have the same spot every single time. You know, like, I think there's so much you can do with that one change that you brought up.
So, Tech, has anybody tweeted about this yet?
I'm pretty sure I have, and everyone is like, no. I'm pretty sure I have.
I would tweet it again, bro, because you're gonna farm. I didn't see it when you tweeted it, right? I'm telling you, 1, that's a farm, and I think 2, if you really wanted to get implemented, which I think it's a great idea. Again, pros would hate it, but it's the same thing on Match Point. Pros hate it, viewers fucking love it. Get people talking about it, bro. Tweet about it.
I just sent you a tweet.